Hello coders, good morning. It is Wednesday, the 7:32 a.m. in the morning. Wednesday, I can't remember what date it is today. It is the 21st of August, 7:32 in the morning, British summertime. We are live. Welcome. It's the How to Code Well YouTube, or Twitch, I should say, stream. It's YouTube because I archive these to YouTube as well. This is not the Sunday stream. The Sunday stream is only Twitch. This is also the series around the PHP OOP project that we are building. This project is an invoicing application. Now, this invoicing application will not have any frameworks, any libraries, apart from testing libraries, of course, any crazy extensions. It is just pure, raw, hardcore PHP and MySQL. And we're doing this because I have been asked by FreeCodeCamp to build a object-orientated course. And we were talking, and I've built an OOP course before on the YouTube channel, on the How to Code Well YouTube channel, but that didn't include any kind of example project to build. So the idea is that this is going to be building an invoicing application, and then I'll be using that as the basis, the foundations, if you will, to teach the OOP course. So of course we need to build this application, and this is what this live stream is all about. It's showing you all the raw ins and outs, the warts and all, with building an OOP application. There's a lot of things that I've done and changed along the way. I believe this is stream number 38, so we've done a couple of streams already on this. Let's dive straight into the code and take a look at where we've left it. So I was off last week, and it's always good when you're back fresh from your travels to rerun tests just to make sure everything is okay. As far as I'm aware, we left it last time in a very stable state, in the sense that PHP Stan was good, the unit tests were good, most of the acceptance tests were good, and I believe there was only 2 failures. So what I just want to do is just make sure that all of those things are true, and then we can take a look at GitHub and see what we're going to be building today. So okay, let's do that. So let's go into vendor bin. I should say that I'm already in the Docker container. This morning what I did is I started the Docker machine and then created or jumped into that here. So evaluated the shell, made sure all the containers were running. That's docker ps-a, and then we are now into the web container. I am going to be using this layout, I think this morning. The previous layout, where I was in presentation mode, a bit bigger screen. So I just, I want to see more on the page. So that's why it's a little bit smaller. So I do apologize if you prefer the old screen. Let me know. Put your thoughts in the comments in the chat. So vendor bin, we're going to run. What are we going to do? We're going to do code sep, and we're going to run all the units. And that should marshal through. We have 86 tests, 175 assertions. That's pretty cool. Let's just run everything. I believe there's 2 tests that fail around and there they are, the page not found issues. This is a problem with the router, which we will be getting to in due course, but not today. So that's that sorted. Okay, let's just double check the PHP Stan stuff. This is what we were playing with last week. So bin PHP Stan, and I believe it is analyze, if I can spell it. Probably not the right spelling at all. No, probably. Good. It was going so well. Level 7. Let's go right to the top. Boom. No errors found. Okay, so it's in a pretty nice place. Which is pretty cool. Okay, okie dokie. Right, so let's take a look at the browser and see where on earth we've left this project. Browser button. There we go. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What did I just do? I clicked something and it went small. Oh well, never mind. We don't need to worry about that. So this is the README, blah, 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 of all of that stuff. We've just done all of that pretty much, sort of spinning up the containers. This is what I want to look at here, the issues. So we have find one by, and we have find all by. We have create mapping layer for status and invoice, fine. Use Tailwind CSS, cool. I'm pretty happy with that at the moment, but we'll deal with that when we get closer to the routing section. I want to tackle these finds because I reckon I could probably mash through these pretty quickly because I guess they're all going to be following a similar pattern, right? So let's take a look at the find one by. Did I leave any comments in here? No, I didn't. Find one by customer by a given where clause. Okay, do I need to do that? Let's find one by on the status by a given where clause, because really it's just going to be IDs, is it not? Find all by. Maybe I was just being a little bit too... Okay, I'm going to just have a look at the code myself and see what the state of the code looks like. So we are in SRC. We've got all the entities that we built. So there's only a handful of entities: customer, invoice item, and status. The managers and the repositories. These are the places that we need to focus on. Let's take a look at the status. So we've got find one, and that's by the ID. We have find all, and that finds all of them. Okay. We got find one by, and we've got find all by. So this is an array of options of fields, I guess, and values. And then we have the save routine here. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at the invoice. Is it much the same? Find one by, find all by, save. Why are we not having on the invoice? Why have we not done the find one? That's interesting. So that needs to be an issue in GitHub as well. And then in customer we have, that's not required. And we've got the save routine. Yep, we've got the find all, we've got the find one by, find one and find. Okay, so yeah, it is these two, the find one by and find all by. Okay, let me think about the application. So the application is going to be, we're going to have a form where you can create your invoice, and that will have a select down perhaps of the customer that you want to use. So that's going to be a find all of the customer. Does it necessarily need to be find all by? Could it just be maybe I'm overcomplicating this. This is what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm overcomplicating this. And then we obviously have the ability to list the items of the invoice. So that would be invoice repository. We don't have an invoice item repository. That's interesting. So yeah, we would need some way of finding all the invoice items based upon the invoice ID, I guess. So we're going to need an invoice item repository too. This is what happens, you see, when you come back to the project after a week off, once all the dust has settled, and you come back thinking, how on earth am I going to get back into the mojo of what it was before? Okay. All right. And then status, we can find a status as well by that. So do I need to have a find by? That's my question. Do I need to find by something? I'm not sure, because it's mostly going to be IDs, isn't it? I'm wondering if we're overcomplicating this code somewhat. I think perhaps this is a question of maybe this needs to be now dictated by the design rather than dictated by the data. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, what's the point in creating a function, a method that isn't going to be used in this application? Bearing in mind that this application we're essentially building a framework here for the invoicing application. But this framework isn't the idea is not to use this framework in anything else. Obviously, if we were, then I would be putting in all of these things. Okay, so what do we do then? What do we do with this? So find all, find one by, find one. Okay, so we definitely need to find one on here. Because when we get to the browser, let's say we do something like, I'm going to put in some pseudocode. So let's do invoice and then the ID of that invoice. We're going to have to find the invoice by one of those. Maybe that's what I'll do. Because there's no point in doing a find one by, because it is just ID that we're getting. I think I'm going to do the find one on here, and then reevaluate these GitHub issues that I did last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that, because I don't think they line up well, and I think these are relics from the abstract class here, where we're enforcing that we have a find one, and really what we need to have is a find all, not by a find all by. But anyway, I've found an issue here. We need to have a find one here, so we're going to do that. So we're going to disregard all of these GitHub issues, and we're going to create a new one. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do, if I can find the right button, the new issue. This is invoice, or create invoice find one. Create invoice find one. Yeah, that's whatever. This will find an invoice by the invoice ID, and I'm going to assign it to myself, and I'm going to set the labels to be model and MySQL, and there we go. We're going to submit this and see which, 74 we're in. Okay, so I need to somehow remember the the commands. Okay, so we come out of this container, goodbye. Let's just make sure that we're not in any other funky branch. So git branch, no, we're in the master branch. Let's just do a quick git poll just in case. This is the only computer I've got this running on at the moment, but okay. And then let's do a git checkout. I think it is -b because we want to build the branch. Git checkout b. It is 74. We're going to put this back into coding mode. I'm sorry, I apologize. This is 74 that we're on. Where are we? 74. And this is invoice find one. Boom. Why did we merge the invoice repository? Oh, it was because I was playing around with that in the thing. Okay, no worries. We're in that branch now. We've created that branch, git branch. That's cool. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's move that back over there. Just lining up my windows so I can see things properly. Yep. Okay, so this pretty much follows the convention of this, where we pass in an ID and we return an entity. So what we could do is we could do a bit of a copy here. Pasting all of these things in. So we have the query builder. We're using table name of invoice, and we are now preparing all of this stuff. And this is obviously the invoice hydrator. If I can spell today, invoice hydrator. Do we not have an invoice hydrator? No, we do have an invoice. Thank God for that. I was like, oh no, I haven't done that. Right. So that's the repo done. And if we go up to the manager here, because this is where we are calling this all through, why is there a status? That's not right. Let's do an invoice Invoice hydrator. Sorry, invoice. Yeah, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. It just returns the entity because that does the hydration. So that is the entity. Ha! Come on, man. Spell. Use the words that you know. Return the entity. And this doesn't return a status, it returns an invoice. Fine one. Yes, so really, I mean, it returns an invoice or it returns null, to be honest. Because we've got that catchment here. If row, then we deal with that. So this really needs to be like that. Hamako, hello Hamako. Thank you for following. I do appreciate this. This is awesome. Thank you very much for following along. Do let me, do interrupt me anytime you want, and put any questions down in the chat. Let me know where you are in the world. That'll be awesome. And also what you do in terms of coding. Are you learning to code? Have you been a coding veteran? Are you building something now? Is it, are you close to production? Is it all of this stuff? Let me know. It'd be really, really interesting to talk to the community. But thank you ever so much for following. And I should also mention that I think it was a couple of days ago or last night or something like that. It certainly wasn't on the stream, I don't believe. But there was another one, Kieran Harari, and I don't know if you're watching now. I do apologize if you ever see this and I am butchering your name. But thank you again for following, and likewise, do let me know what you're up to, where you are in the chat below. Okay, so right, so we're doing all the now. One thing I haven't done, which I should really be doing, is doing this in a TDD kind of manner, and I've just gone and blown that up by just going into the code and writing code. Silly me. So what we need to do is build these tests. So we have invoice test here. This is the no, it's integration test. So we have a customer one. We don't have any invoicing tests, which is very worrying. Find customer that does not exist. Okay, so this is essentially what we need to do. I'm gonna copy this, paste it in here, call this DB invoice. Entity test. Thank you. I tell you what we could do today is we could take a look at the code coverage, DB, because that would be good, wouldn't it? Just knowing what has and hasn't been tested, touched by the code coverage. I'm having a right trouble finding the invoice. You can't see this on the stream. This is really disappointing. The with PHP unit, of course, you have like a pop-out menu, context menu. You can't see it on here. So, okay, that needs to be called invoice repository. Why is that happening? Yeah, there we go. That's better. That's tidied up. Okay, so invoice repository. This is obviously the invoice manager. Invoice manager. Oh dear. If this is how my day is going to continue, where I'm spelling manager wrong and invoice wrong, I might as well just go back to bed. Wonderful. Okay, so that sets up the connection to the database. That also does the instantiates the invoice repository, and then it returns a new invoice manager, injecting the repository, which also injects the connection. I showed this a long time ago, and I won't bore you with it again today, primarily because I can't remember it myself. But anyway, we'll close that off. We want to do, that's findall. Oh, did I delete that? We want to do find by ID, customer and ID. Yeah, okay, so that's what we want to mimic. That we can mimic as well. Okay, let's do it one at a time. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so this one is DB invoice, and what we can do is we can do a control C, we can do a control, is it R or H? I forget. No, it's not control H, that does something completely different. And we can do find that, replace with this. Thank you. Replace all. Okay, so this is now new invoice. Hamako has said, "Hi, I'm from Finland, and while I have experience in coding, I'm a beginner. Interested to see some actual coding stream that isn't game dev stream." Is there lots of? I mean, I watch people stream code, but I haven't seen a game developer stream. I would be actually quite interested to see that. But yeah, what is it that you're coding, Hamako? And I apologize if I'm butchering that name. Yeah, what is it that you're learning? I'll be interested to know. I've got tons and tons of tutorials and courses on the How to Code Well YouTube channel. Tons. So perhaps one of those could, help you out if you've got a problem. Loads of stuff on Docker and JavaScript and PHP and Python and Linux and HTML. Yeah, and others. Okay. All right. So we've created this invoice. We're going to save it and then we're going to find it again. That's the whole point, right? So we're going to create an invoice. We're going to set the something or other. Why can't that find invoice? I want to. Why is right set? So I need to set the VAT. Yeah, let's think about this a minute. Yeah, okay. 2 or 3, whatever. That doesn't really make a difference. I'm just thinking, is there going to be a problem saving this? Because I can't remember what the constraints are. I appreciate I've just totally bulldozed into this. I can't remember whether I need to have a status for this to work. Eek, this could be interesting. All right, whatever. We'll have an error, and we can work through that. So we're gonna now find that entity. So we'll do a find one based off of that. So that's going to call that function that we've just created, the find one. And then we're doing is once we have the found entity, we are comparing the found entity with the saved entity. So we have the saved entity here, and then we have the found entity here. So we create the entity, right? Then we do manager, and then we save that. The save routine returns the entity, I believe. Yes, let me just double check that. Save returns the entity. Yes, that's correct. And then, oh gosh, let me find where I was. And then we find that entity, and then what we're doing is we're comparing the entity. So this is entity, so this is found entity. Oh, no, thank you, PHP Storm. That wasn't what I was after. And we can do get that, and of course we can compare that with the saved entity that we've saved. I mean, what we could do really is we could just compare the objects. That would be so much easier, wouldn't it? So much easier than this, but hey ho. Let's and then this is get total. Get total. Oh yeah, get reference. It does. Yeah. I really should just compare the objects rather than just compare every little minute thing in there. But anyway, right. Let's now dive into the Docker container again, which is that one. We can now run a unit test. It's not a unit test, it's an integration test. Integration. -G, and we want to pinpoint that test that hasn't been copied to my clipboard. This one here. No, come on, Control C, work. Sometimes my iMac here, it gets muddled which window of PHP Storm you're in. So sometimes it doesn't copy and paste and stuff, and it's really it's either that or there's a problem with my keyboard. Command. Oh, I can't spell integration, can I? Oh no, I need to run run integration, and then G. There we go. Okay, so that did run. That did save, and that did go in. So we did save it, and then that did find it. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty glad that that worked. Yeah. Whilst we're here, though, there is other things to do. So there is this down here, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. So this is finding. So we do invoice. We're setting the ID of 5001. We don't have a 5001 invoice. And what we want to do is make sure that we actually have null returned. So I can pinpoint that one too. Let's copy that. Oh, seriously? Come on. Copy. There we go. Okay, so that didn't run, and that didn't run because must return. So find1 must return an instance of invoice, but null is returned. So there is a problem with that. So that really needs to be like this, doesn't it? And that's null. There we go. So let's run that again. There we go. Okay, so that did work. So it's running null or an invoice. Null if it can't be found. Okay, so that's good. Next one is the findall. So this is where we create a bunch of invoices. So, and then we attempt to find them all. And we run the findall method, which doesn't seem to be existing. So that's a problem. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just come out, I'm just going to remove that. And I'm going to save this. Let's just make sure the code is all tidy. Yep. I'm going to commit this because this really encapsulates the Git branch that we were just playing with, the 74 job, the invoice find one. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take a breather and go git status. These are what we've changed for this to work, and we're going to do git add src, all the things, tests, all the things, and we're going to do a git commit. I'm going to push these up, commit -m for the message. So this is adding. What are we adding here? We're adding find by ID, adding or find one. Okay, and then we're going to do a hub poll request -p. Request is not spelled right. -p because we want to push the pull request after we've done it. So now we're in Vim, so I got to remember how that works. So I haven't used Vim in a week. So adding find one. This fixes hash 74. Excellent. So we come out of that, we write and quit, bye, and that should push this up because of the -p, which is done. It's pushed that up as the thingy. So now I think that's done. I can go back to the browser here. Let's just refresh that page. Oh, I need a bigger screen. Because the 27-inch iMac is just not big enough. Refresh. What am I looking for? Refresh. Different browser to this morning, so it's a bit. Yeah, here we go. So we've added that in. So the pull request. we're going to merge this pull request, confirm that. In she goes. Delete that old branch, bye-bye. And then we're going to just take a look at the issues again. So that should have been gone. Yep, that is out of the park. That's out there. Awesome. So let's now go back to the code. Code. And let's do a git check out of master. And we need to do a git pull to pull down that change that we've just merged into master. That was the branch that we just created. And then obviously what we need to do, if we load this up, we need to delete that old branch that we were just playing with. So branch -d, and it is 74 -invoice. Ooh, I spelled it right that time. No, I had a 0 on the end. Find 1. Bye-bye. So there we go. So that was a pretty slick piece of functionality we added in. It's the ability to find an invoice by the ID. So pretty chuffed with that. Let's take a look at some other bits and pieces. So we have the invoice manager here. That is what we were just playing with. We have also just checked the save routine too. We can clear this up a little bit. But there was another thing that I wanted to look at, and that was in invoice repository. That is what we've done, but there is no find all. And what I would like is to have the first page of this application to list all of the invoices. So we need to have a find all routine. So I think that is the next thing I'm going to do after my tea. Tea. The first tea of the day is always the best. Excuse me. Sorry. Right. Okay. So we need to do a find all of the invoice. So we're going to go back to the browser here, and we're going to do a new issue. And we're going to do invoice find all. And in here, I'm just going to do find all invoices. Again, I'm going to assign this to myself. I'm going to sort out labels just because of my just because it's nice to do all this. I know that it's only me working on this, but it's nice to be able to identify what is what in this kind of crazy world. So that's what we're going to work on. It's issue 76. So let's go back into the code. We're going to do a similar thing as we did last time, in the sense that we're going to do a git checkout -b this time because we want to build the branch. And this is 76, and this is invoice find all. There we go. So we switched that branch. Wonderful. This time we're going to do it slightly differently. This time we are going to be creating the test first, as I should have done beforehand. Silly me. But the find all routine is the thing that we deleted before, which was off of the customer, which is just this. So we can copy that, paste that into the invoice, like so. Let's make some room. Change all of these things to be invoice. And yes, so we need to instantiate. The idea here is we create two entities. We instantiate two invoices, these are going to be. Then we save these two invoices to the database. Then we run a find all, and we should return an array of results. Find all doesn't exist yet, so this is going to be a failing test. And then what we do is we make sure that the results is in actual fact an array, and that it is more than one, because we've saved 2 to here, and then we pull out the first entity, and then we make sure that the entity is an instance of the invoice, and then that is acceptable. So what I can do is I can just grab this from here and paste that into that one like so. Let's just call that entity 1. Reference, I'm going to do test 1. And I should say that if anybody is watching this, if anybody's out there, that the way I'm doing this is that after every test, I have a mechanism that flushes out the database and then rebuilds it to a given state, which means that every test is clean. I'm not just throwing things in willy-nilly into the database and then just hoping that they're there. You know, it gets clean. I think what I'll do is I will just demonstrate that for you. So so that is all controlled in the wonderful configuration here. If I blow this up a little bit, so we have. So it's always going to reconnect. These are the credentials that we pass in. This is the DSN stuff. But then we run this dump file, dump.sql. And what happens is after everyone, or before everyone, we populate it. Sorry. So before each test, we populate this dump file. We run that. And then after each one, we clean it up. Or is it before each one we clean it up? Whatever. Regardless of the order, what happens is, you know, before each test, you are running on a clean environment, and the dump SQL is in data dump, and that is in here, data, dump. So this is a massive, well, it's not massive, is it? It's not that massive. I've seen bigger. You know, schema. So this will just build the database to a given state. So here we're creating this. I think actually what I've done is it's not actually, there's that. So it does insert statuses, but that's it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything else. And I think that's because, well, yeah, the status is more referential data, so that's why it's in there. But I just wanted to show you that, just in case you're like, how are you doing this? So before or after each test, I forget which one, I'll have to look that up, we are cleaning out the old stuff. So after this test runs, we won't get this again, you know, which is good. So, okay, anyway, so we do the save entity 1 and entity 2. Then we do the check, making sure that it is an array, get the first entity, and then we want to make sure that that is actually an invoice. Which means that we've got this customer namespace at the top we can get, or use statement import we can get rid of. Okay, so this is actually going to fail flat on its face because we don't have a fineall yet. Let's just test that theory out. So we're going to jump into the container, which is going up a couple of times. Come on. There we go. We're going to run an integration test, which is just that one. If the copy and paste had failed again and again. How have you copied that? That is not what I put in the clipboard. Copy, paste. No. Oh, I'm gonna have to use the context menu now. You've made me angry. The context menu is getting out. Right click. Come on. Paste. Seriously now. How was that copied into my clipboard? Thank you. And you've copied the whole thing. Oh, great. So, why? Right, okay. So we have the error here. Call to undefined method, app manager, invoice manager, findall. So that's the first thing we need to fix. So that is our failing test. So that needs to be built. So let's jump in, and I'm just going to jump into this one here, to the manager, which is this one. And let's build the findall. Now the findall, it does follow the same pattern as the other ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's grab the customer, because I know that's in there. We're going to grab that, and we're going to put that into the invoice manager, like so. Thank you very much. Let's just give it a little bit more, give it a doc block, why not? Okay, so we don't have the repository findall. So again, what we can do, it runs very similar code, similar pattern, so similar it probably needs to be refactored. And whoops, yep. So here we go. That's what we need. Copy that. Go into the invoice repository. We can get rid of that customer hydrator. That can go. And we can paste this in here. There we go. I'm going to just tidy up, Control Command L to tidy up the code. That table name changes to invoice, obviously, and we hydrate this through the invoice hydrator. So yeah, all of this can probably be refactored down into something a little bit more tidier, I think, because it is using a lot of duplicated code, which is a bit of a code smell. Okay, so let's hit save on this, and then let's see what happens. So we're going to run the test again, and it had passed because all of those things are in play, which I'm super happy with. Yeah, which I'm super happy with. Whilst I'm here, I want to tackle this find one by and find all by malarkey, because I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. The reason why these are in here is because of the abstract functions. But really what we need to have, instead of the find one by and find all by, is really we need to have a find all and a save. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to come out of this. I'm going to commit all of this up, and I'm just going to put in another git task just to tidy up. I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do come out of that. We're going to do a git status. And we're going to do a git add. All the things in SRC, all the things in tests. Well, it's only those things. What? There we go. And then we're going to do a git commit -m, adding invoice, find all. Thank you. And then we're going to do a hub pull request -p, and we're going to go into insert mode. I'm going to put in a line here, and we're going to do fixes #76. Come on. I was like staring at the keyboard. I pressed 7. I was like, where's the 6? Haven't had enough coffee. So escape this, write and quit, bye-bye. And then that should push that thing up, which it has done. Go into the browser. Click on that. This is the open pull request. Merge that in. Confirm the merge. Happy days. Delete the branch. Goodbye. Go back into the code. I should say that if, I'm not as cavalier, as this when I'm actually doing like proper project work. I don't just go into GitHub pull requests. There's a whole bunch of tests and stuff that happen. This isn't like, this is only me really working on this. I know I've had a couple of issues from people putting through, but there's really only me doing pull requests. I think if there was anyone else, I would be a little bit more hesitant to do so. I would probably set up a Travis testing setup, which runs these tests upon pull requests, upon the merges, to have that extra barrier of entry, a bit of gatekeeping going on there to ensure that this can't just, a code can't just break because someone's pressed the confirm merge button. I'd rather have a machine decide that. So, okay, so that's been pulled or pushed. So we need to pull that. So we need to do git checkout master, which is this one, and we do a git pull, bring that in. Git, so that's pulled. Git branch -d, because we want to delete that branch. Can I remember the branch name? It is 76 invoice findall. 76 invoice findall. Bye. Okay, cool. So we are back on the master branch, and I'm going to go into the browser again. Time is 8:18, which is good. We are cooking on gas this morning. I'm going to delete these. Because these are, I don't think I need them, and I think if I do, I'll recreate them. I don't think I do, so I'm going to remove them all. Why make work for work's sake? Yeah. The reason being is that they're going to be constrained by the oh, that didn't close. Huh. They're going to be constrained by the databases, the linker tables and so forth. So I'm not sure I need to find all of them by a certain thing. I think I could find all of them and then perhaps yeah, I think I'll have to be a case by case. I'm going to do code cleanup, because there's a couple of things that I want to clean up, because there's a bunch of stuff in cleanup managers. Right, so this is clean up, because I think there's a ton of stuff that I could just get rid of, and it's always good when you come back from holiday and you look at the code and you're thinking, with fresh eyes and sort of a refreshed mind, clicking. I just closed it and reopened it. What a moron. You kind of like, you look at the code and you go, don't need to do this. I've just put this boilerplate stuff in for no apparent reason. Or when I did it at the time, though, I obviously thought there was a good reason to, but I don't think there is. So we're going to go into the code here. The code in question is this this stuff. Let's just make that a little bit wider. So this is abstract. Because this is abstract, this means that any class that extends abstract repository must have these method signatures. It's not going to define the body of the method signature of the method. It's just the signatures. But if we notice that we have, so this is an architectural issue here. We have find one and find all by. and we have find one and find all by. There's nothing in them, and I really don't think there's any need to do this. Instead, however, what we do have in all of these classes is a find one, a find all, and we have a save. Let's just make sure that that's the case. We have a find all, a find one, and somewhere down here we have a save. Yep. And in status we have a find one, a find all, and the save. So really, what we need to do is we need to remove that as well. We need to remove all the code that we don't use, all the dead code, so that can go. Now that's going to throw an error because we're extending the abstract repository, but that's fine. We will. That's fine for now, because what we want to do is we want to put all this in error first, then clean it up, and the cleanup should then put it right, hopefully. So the status here. Okay, yep, that's correct. Okay, so now in the abstract repository, instead of a find one by, this needs to be a find all. Find all doesn't actually take any kind of options, it's just that. And also we have a save. Again, a save might be slightly different because the save takes an entity. So that's going to be tricky. We won't be able to abstract that at this point. Because we can't enforce the signature, because the signature is going to be slightly different for each one. So now we don't have the red line anymore for that. We don't have the red line for the invoice, and we don't have the red line for the customer. Okay, so that's sorted. Let's take a look at the managers. So with the managers, we have, I'm just going to clean up the code on that. Let's just clean up the code here as well. Make sure everything is. So this is shift command and then L on the Mac to shift command alt on the Mac, and that will format the code in a nice sort of friendly way, make it a little bit more readable, adhere to standards. You could also do it against the actual folder as well, so you can do that too. So you can do reformat code, boom, see all those go blue, and then optimize the imports as well. It's always good to do that, but do this in your own separate branch, right? Don't just refactor code whilst you're adding a feature. Refactoring code should be done in its own separate branch. I can't stress that enough, because if you ever have a bug, then you've got to deal with the fact that you've just gone and changed a load of stuff, renamed a bunch of stuff that is not relevant to the feature that you were adding or changing or removing. Okay, so we have Abstract Manager up here. That requires a find one, but actually this needs to also be a find all. And I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, there's a find all here. What's going on here? Have I messed that up? Yes, I have. That doesn't have anything in here at all. Now, what you could do is because these are in abstract, you could create a doc block. That's what I'm looking for. That returns an array, and the doc block could have some comments like find all entities, which I can't spell. There we go. And you could also do that with find one. So this is going to be find. find an entity, find one entity by ID. Okay, and then what you could do in this in these things is you could actually run the inherit. Now, there's no point in doing inherit here because this is returning a status. But you could do something here. So you could do, oh damn, come on. There we go. So you inherit the document, which means that if anyone was to click through that, they would get to this point and they would be able to see it. And also means that if you run something like PHP Documenter, it will use the inherited inherited thing. It's always good to do this, I think, because it just makes the code a little bit more cleaner. You know, you're not having to. Not only are you're reducing your comments. You know, but you're making it more easier to identify that this is actually inherited by something. Let's take a look at the save a minute. I just want to have a little gander with that. The problem with the save is that you can't, because it's requiring a particular entity. You could, I guess, create an interface that every entity has, and then pass that in as, say, the entity interface. And the entity interface could have, say, the ID. But the problem there, of course, is that this interface also needs to have things like get names and get internal names and so forth. So you'll end up having to create a status entity interface that extends an entity interface, and it gets a little bit messy. Yeah. But anyway, well, let's just focus on the findalls for now. Let's just inherit that document. Let's just copy that and put these on the other ones. Cool, and likewise with the abstract manager here, this will also return an array. Let's bring that up a little bit. So that will return an array, and then there we go. So this will find all entities, and then this one will find entity by ID. Okay. You can get away with the fact that we're not putting in a signature here, a sort of a data type. You can get away with that, even though, say, the customer, the find one, we have null or that, and it returns this. So you could arguably get away with that. The problem becomes when you're actually defining a data type for the property that you're giving. That's when it starts getting complicated. Because the signature of that method is changed for all, and you're trying to keep consistency across the board. This is why we probably need to use interfaces, but that's a bit of a job, so I'm gonna probably hold off that for a mo. We have the manager interface here as well. Not sure why I did that. It seems a bit redundant. Okay, as I've made some changes, I've made some sort of sweeping changes. Well, they were quite light, but as I've done them, I'm going to run all the tests again, and I'm going to run PHP stan again, just because, well, A, I've added new tests, and B, I've been playing around with the refactoring of the code. So I may have created a mistake. So let's just run these tests. 2 will fail. Those are the 2 there. So all the tests pass apart from those 2, which is fine. 110 tests. That's a nice place to leave it. 110 tests, that's cool. Now let's run PHP stan. There we go, level 7. So that's fine, that's all good. So just to round up, I'm going to go back into the host machine, and we're going to do a git branch. Oh dear. We're on the master branch. Yikes, I thought we weren't on the master branch. That's annoying. Git checkout. I think this might kill it all now, which is a shame. What was the branch number? It was 78. Yep. Okay, so that's cool. That all those changes were ported over as well, which is very nice. So I can do git status if I can find the right keys. Git status. There we go. This is what we changed. So let's do a git add of everything in src. That's pretty good. Let's do a git commit, or let's just do a git status again, just to clarify in my head that was all. Yeah, that's all green. There's nothing in there apart from the DS store, which is silly. So let's do a git commit. That's what I need to do. I need to commit my work. And this is cleaning up abstract methods. Okay, we're going to do a hub pull request of this request st, and going into Vim here, we need to fixes. Which one was this? Did I say 78? Yeah, 78. Write and quit. That's got -p on the end, so that's going to push it up. There we go. Okay, cool. And then we go into the browser again and take a look at the pull requests here. That's what we've got here, cleaning up abstract methods. Merge that, confirm. Delete the old branch. Go right back into the issues. That's gone. That's cool. Let's go back into the code, which is here, and then let's do a git branch. Sorry, git checkout of master, and then a git branch -d to. Oh, sorry, I should do a git poll. And then we do a git branch -d to delete that branch that we've just created, which is 78 cleanup. Bye-bye. Okay, cool. Just for my own sanity's sake, and I know I've done this a lot, but just for my own clarification that everything is working as it should, I'm going to go back into the container. I'm going to run Codeception for one more time. 2 errors, that's fine. That's cool. 2 errors is what we're looking for. That is good. Now we're going to run PHP stan again. Boom, that's cool. I'm pretty happy with that. So that is cool. I think that is going to be where we leave the code, I think, today. Because I need to crack on. It's 8:37 in the morning. There's other things that I do need to get on with. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend like an hour on my lunch, half an hour on my lunch or something. I'm just going to have a look at this code and sort of take a look and see what the next steps are, because I think that we are pretty close. It feels like we're pretty close with the database stuff, and I would like to come off of this, and I would like to deal with the front end a little bit. I think there will be some things that we do need to go back and do with the model layer. There is a concern of mine that we are not checking for errors of MySQL, and that's a concern. There's also other concerns around saving data, making sure that they're sanitized, the inputs are sanitized. But I think we'll tackle those as we go. I think we'll tackle those as we go. It'll be quite nice to flip from back end to front end to back end a bit. So I think that's where we are going. Just going back to the browser a minute. This is the website where you will find all of the live streams as well as the course once it's done. So I'll embed the course here. So this is learnobjectorientatedphp.com. If you click on the live coding the course, you'll also see all of the live coding streams that we're doing here. So this is the archive stream of all of the things. So you can watch each one of those. And if you're watching this video, this archive of this stream, hello on this website, hello to you. These streams are also proudly sponsored by Hostinger. Hostinger has a fantastic offer on for shared hosting at the moment. It is 82% off, and you get a free domain. Also, if you use the discount code Peter Fisher here, you get the further 15% off. Now, there's also another deal for VPSs, which is if you use that as well, you get 77% off the VPSs. If you go to hostinger.com/Peter Fisher, you can get that awesome deal. Those two deals there, the shared hosting and the VPS deal. That's hostinger.com/Peter Fisher. And lastly but not least, there is also the podcast that if you haven't heard it or watched it yet, do check it out, because I interview amazing guests to do with coding and web development every week. Every Friday there is a new podcast. So there's a new podcast coming this Friday. It's a video and it's an audio show. So you can get all of the previous episodes on things like iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and Google podcast player thingies and all of that other jazz. Or if you wanted to, you could actually watch the interviews as well on the How to Code Well YouTube channel. But do check that out as well. Before I go, I just want to say thank you ever so much for the new follows today. I do appreciate that. And also thank you very much for messaging me in the chat as well. I like to hear what you guys and girls are up to in the coding world. But for now, I need to push on. I've got some freelance work that I need to get on with. So I need to switch gears and do some of that. But thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding. I'll see you again tomorrow at the same time, 07:30 British summertime. See you tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.